Hey there guys! So this is an updated version of my previous token event guide, originally released June 23rd, 2015. For that reason, a lot of the graphics you'll see here may not match exactly with the current version of SIF. The graphics don't really affect the tips and tricks you should follow though, so that shouldn't be an issue. So without further ado, on with the guide! Hey there guys, and welcome back to Love Live School Idol Festival. And just between us, I've got an updated guide for you to help you out with token events in the game. Hooray! This is a simplified guide, very simplified guide, because videos aren't very conducive to complicated text and math and things. It's just meant to give you a broad view of how to be successful in these events. If you want more detailed tips and tricks, complete with all the math and stuff, there are a bunch of useful links in the video description. You can go read all that stuff there. For now, if you follow these basic tips overall, you should still be pretty good for these events. So what is a token event, just so we know to start off with? Well, during an event, you get to play any songs you want, unlike a score match event, which will give you random songs. During a token event, though, every song in the game, no matter what difficulty, will give you tokens on certain notes. As in, you'll load up a song, and every now and then you'll see a note that has a little icon in it. That icon is a token, and if you hit the note properly with at least a bad hit, then you will get a token. That token is worth a point in the event. Now, you see I have over 3,000 points. That doesn't mean I got 3,000 tokens. God, no. Tokens are used to play special event-only songs, and it's by playing this event song that you get a butt-ton of points. That's the technical term for it. So, basic secret to success in a token event: play songs, get tokens, play event song, make it rain. Now, the number of tokens you get per song is generally equivalent to the number of LP it takes to play that song. You see, for this song it would take 5 LP to play the song, so you would get 5 tokens for it if you full combo it. The only time where it differs is when you start playing 15 and 25 LP songs. For 15 LP songs, like this one, you get a bonus token, so you get 16 tokens for playing a 15 LP song. And for Expert, for 25 LP songs, you get 2 extra tokens, so you get 27 tokens for playing these songs. So, obviously, if you want to get the maximum number of tokens possible in one of these events, you should be playing 15 LP songs and 25 LP songs only. Now, don't worry if you can't play the 25 LP songs for whatever reason. They're hard. They're hard as balls, I get it. Don't worry, you're not missing out on that much if you don't play them. The math works out such that you can play more 15 LP songs per bar refresh than you can with 25 LP songs. So, overall, the number of tokens and points you get in the end works out to be very similar. So, 15, 25, whatever you prefer. And bar refreshes in general are going to be very important to keep track of during these events, so keep an eye on that. We'll come back to that in a second. Now here's something that's changed a bit. In the previous version of this guide, I talked about saving up tokens for 4X songs. Basically, 4X was a version of the event song that let you spend 4 times the tokens to get 4 times the event points. It was a huge time saver, and you got a free love gem for clearing each one of them, and it was great. However, as of 4.1, the system's gotten even better, because we now have 2X, 3X, and 4X LP multipliers and token multipliers. See my 4.0 intro guide for more details on that. These multipliers are available on every song at all times, including the event song, so there's no more need for separate 4X song releases. So yeah, if you want to save yourself a lot of time and sanity, make liberal use of this feature. God knows everybody else playing the event is as well, so go whole hog, I say. As for which difficulty to play the event song on, that used to be a much more complicated decision with charts and math and everything, but now the choice is much simpler. All things being ideal, you should try to play the song on Expert if you can. The viability of Expert shot through the roof in past updates, so yeah, Expert is almost always the way to go now. Only play hard or below if you can't survive Expert yet, or if you can survive, but your score and combo are consistently below B. Basically, play the hardest difficulty you can survive, and if that difficulty is Expert, you should almost always pick Expert. Alright, I think that covers all the basic situations you might run into no matter how you're playing the event, so let's get into a few more specific situations. In order to determine how you're going to play, first you should determine what it is you want out of the event. Which SR are you shooting for? One? Both? How many copies of each? Or do you not really care what you get as long as you snag a few extra gems? Well, first, if you're going for an SR, you need to figure out how you're going to get her. Almost all token events going forward will be double card events, so let's focus on those. One of the two cards will be available completely through points, meaning you can get up to 2 or 3 copies of it even if you fail to rank high. This option is great for people with limited time and gems because you don't have to worry about keeping pace with other players to get the card you want. You just have to make sure you play enough to get the points you need in the time available. The other card in the event, though, is available only through what's called tiering, which means you will not get any copies until after the event ends, and the number of copies you get is entirely dependent on how you rank among other players. If you rank in the third highest set of player rankings, aka Tier 3, you get 1 copy of the SR. If you reach the second highest set of rankings, aka Tier 2, you get 2 copies, and if you reach the highest ranks, aka Tier 1, you get 3 copies. Tiering tends to be more stressful than going for the points SR since it means you have to work harder to keep your event rank up, even if you already have a lot of points. But it's totally worth it if it's all for best girl. So where should we start given all that? Well, let's start simple. Let's say you only need 1 unidolized SR, and if it's a double card event, let's say it's the points SR. First, you should look under completion rewards in this event page. Reward details, completion rewards. Scroll down until you see the points required to get your waifu. In this case, it's 11,000 points is what you need to gain that card. Sounds like a lot, but it actually is not that hard to get if you are playing efficiently. And efficiency is definitely the key in these events, in pretty much any event. First off, in order to determine how to get to that point level using the minimum number of gems possible, or possibly no gems even, if you play it right, you should go to an event calculator. I won't say a specific one here in case the current one stops working in the future, but as long as SIF exists, there will almost definitely be some kind of event calculator out there to help you figure out exactly what you need to achieve your goals in events. The current calculator will be linked in the video description, so check that out there. For now, I'm using the calculator maintained by Suyo, so I'll show you how this one works. First, you select the event type you want, which of course in this case is token event. Then click remaining event time and select either automatic or manual to set in the number of hours left in the event. Automatic is good to use during an actual event on either EN or JP, and manual is good for general calculations or for events on other servers such as Taiwan or China. Then head to live settings. Fill in the details of how you figure you'll be playing most of the time on both the event song and the regular songs for token gathering. Leave the event points table setting on new. For current stats and target point, fill in the number of event points you hope to get. In this case, we want 11,000 to get a single copy of the points SR, as well as the points you currently have, any unspent tokens you have, your current rank, and your EXP in the EXP bar. And then calculate, and ta-da! You should have a nice readout of exactly how many gems, if any, that you need to spend, how many times you need to play the event song and any normal songs, and the total time you should expect to spend in order to achieve everything. If your goal is unattainable for some reason, the calculator will tell you to give up on your dreams now before someone gets hurt. Most of the time, though, if your goals are reasonable, you should expect a reasonable result. Alright, so now we know what we need to do, but that's only accurate if we play efficiently. So how do you play efficiently? Well, the number one golden rule to keep in mind is never let your LP bar sit at full for too long at a time, or ever if you can manage it, because letting your bar sit at full is essentially wasting the opportunity to generate more LP. Generating more LP equals more song plays, equals more tokens, equals more points. So, if possible, in order to generate even more LP, stay up for the very start of the event and make sure your LP bar is full when the event begins, so you can essentially cram as much LP as possible into the event period as possible, and then never let your LP bar fill up again if you can. Sometimes it's okay if you're not, like, the super craziest ever, like, say if you need to sleep for more than 5 hours a night. But in general, try to be as efficient as possible at all times. Here's a few tips you can follow to try and make sure that you stay within those bounds. It takes about an hour and a half to regenerate 15 LP for a hard song. 2.5 hours to regenerate 25 for an expert. If possible, set an alert to go off either every time you have enough LP to play another song, so say set an alarm for an hour and a half or 2.5 hours later, or set an alarm for the next time your LP bar is close to filling up. Then you know, oh, I'm good to go again. Sometimes this can be hard, admittedly. If you're in a place where you can't have an alarm go off, like school or work or something like that, then you're just gonna have to keep an eye on the time and think about when you might be able to squeeze another play in before your bar fills up. Best times for that: washroom break, lunch breaks, usually the best opportunities. Though if you're playing in a public washroom, be sure to either keep your earbuds on hand or play without sound, because nobody wants to hear "Cutie Pencil Watashi" when they're trying to take a dump. I don't know about you, but I imagine most people don't. Or, instead of a traditional alarm, there are a few specialized apps made by fans that notify you when your LP fills up. Some of the apps include Love Live LP Notification, Idle Manager, and SIF Timer. Most of these apps are for Android only, but Idle Manager recently appeared on iOS, so assuming it doesn't get banned from the App Store in the future for copyright or something, there's an option for iOS users too. These apps not only help you track LP, but also often help you track other aspects of your account, such as EXP to rank up and current Love Jam count, so they're fun to mess around with. Either way, the notification feature is really helpful if you don't feel like manually figuring out how long you need to set an alarm on your phone for. And again, sleep, you can set your sleep schedule up so, like, say you have an alarm go off for as many hours as you have LP to spend, and then play a song and then go back to sleep. If you can manage that, then great. But practically speaking, that's not going to be feasible for a lot of people. Probably most people, I would argue. Especially if you have school or early hours at work to worry about, or other sane people things. Generally speaking, yeah. Until I got enough LP to allow me a full 8 hours of sleep, like, I think it takes about 80 LP in order to get a full 8 hours of sleep between bar refreshes. You just accept a certain level of inefficiency when it comes to sleep. And if all goes well and you're playing at top or near top efficiency, you should get that SR. Within about 3 to 6 days, depending on the difficulty you're playing on, and assuming you play a total of about an hour a day. You can even get the SR in just a few hours if you spend a bunch of gems and do what's known as an SR rush, which is a self-imposed challenge where you play a bunch of short songs like Shocking Party or Aozora Jumping Heart in rapid succession and refresh your LP constantly to get the SR in the least amount of time possible. I would not recommend SR rushing unless you're also planning to tier, because honestly, if all you want is the points SR, you can get one copy of that over the course of the event without spending a single gem easy. If you want more, though, if you absolutely must have Ellie's Super Rainbow Pants, then, again, it depends on if you're going for the points SR or the tiering SR. Again, we'll assume points for now. We'll talk about tiering as a whole thing in a moment. For points SRs, you may need to spend at least a few gems to make sure you get to the point levels required. As of this recording, it takes 25,000 points to reach the second copy of the points SR, and 40,000 to reach the third copy. Depending on what difficulty you're playing on and what rank your account is, you're probably looking at anywhere from 0 to 15 gems to get 2 copies, and about 15 to 30 gems to get 3. Again, the event calculator should be able to help you figure out how many you should need for your situation and your goals. Could be a bit more, could be a bit less. But again, as long as you play efficiently and spend your gems evenly throughout the event, you should be fine. You can spend all the gems the calculator recommends up front, but that's a bit risky since you could fall behind and have to spend more gems later if something happens to interrupt your play schedule. Best to use the gems as needed over the course of the event, and if you end up pressed for time closer to the end, then increase your spending a bit. Also a good way to make sure you don't overstress yourself by playing too much all in one go, so there you go. Now, as for tiering SRs, again, depending on what you want, you need to reach the first, second, or third tier rankings in order to get the number of copies you want. You can check your current ranking by going to the event main page and tapping Event Ranking, then tapping the top menu on the right and selecting your rank. You'll see what rank you're currently placed at, and you can check that placement against the current tier numbers on the Reward Details page. As long as you stay above the lowest cutoff rank for the tier that you want by the end of the event, you'll get the number of copies you want. You'll almost certainly have to end up spending gems to do that, by the way. For tier 3, you can sometimes get away with not spending gems, but for tiers 1 and 2, spending gems is almost always unavoidable. Based on some data I gathered a while back, here's a rough table of about how many gems players said they spent to tier on average. The higher you rank, the fewer gems you tend to have to spend. Although lower ranks also do have the advantage of ranking up more often and getting more free LP refreshes as a result, so that does help lower ranked players compete with higher ranked ones. Still, high rank definitely tends to equal fewer gems spent overall. Though take all of these numbers with a grain of salt, you're probably going to need more gems than average to tier in an event for a more popular girl like Maki or Kotori, and fewer for less popular girls like Hanayo or Rin. Even then, the popularity of a girl can change depending on whether she gets a really pretty card or not, so Your mileage may vary. These are guidelines only. Now, how do you ensure that you get in these top tiers, you ask? Because there's no, score set in stone required to get to these tiers. It fluctuates every event. Well, there's a few useful tools you can use to help you figure out exactly what you should be aiming for. The first resource you have available to you is School Idol Tomodachi, which you should be using anyway, even if you're not playing in an event, because it's just a really great site. For now, all we're interested in is the Events tab at the top here. This Events page on School Idol Tomodachi lists all past events in the game, JP and English, whatever. So what we want is, of course, the current event. That's the Ellie event there. So this shows us how long we have in the event. That's how I figured out how many hours were left in the event before. And it also shows us some data on what the point cutoffs were for the JP event, the Japanese event, when it ran last year. The Tier 2 point cutoff, that's how many points a player had to score in order to stay in the tier at that time, was 27,169, and Tier 1 was 39,803. Damn! Jeez. Most of the time these cutoff numbers should be safe to shoot for, since throughout most of SIF history, JP cutoffs have been higher than EN cutoffs. But lately, EN has been getting pretty competitive as well, so my advice now would be use JP cutoffs as a guideline of what to shoot for in the early going, and then in the second half of the event, check out where you're standing tier-wise, determine if you're higher or lower than you want to be, and adjust your point goals accordingly. The second resource you can use is the Love Live School Idol Festival subreddit. Again, a thing you should be visiting if you're not already. There's tons of useful information and helpful people around. And during events, people like to post these tracking posts, which show both manual and automatic predictions on what they think the cutoffs are going to be this time around. For example, this person is predicting they're going to have 34,500 for Tier 1 and 25,500 for Tier 2, based on their thoughts about what's going on so far and past events and trends and whatnot. There's also this automatic tracker that is predicting based on real-time numbers and updates every hour and has like a graph and everything. So yes, you can keep an eye on this throughout the event. It's especially important to keep an eye on towards the end of an event. I'd say the most key part of any event is probably the last 4 to 6 hours, because that's when most people start to rush for more points. During that time, you should try to stay at least 2,000 to 3,000 points above the predicted cutoff. It used to be lower, but with the 4x LP multipliers in play, all bets are off. Go as high above the predicted cutoff as you can reasonably get. If you can't play during the last hours of the event for whatever reason, like you can't stay up, or like you have work or school the next day, or you have homework to do, then try to make sure you at least play extra at the latest possible moment that you can, and maybe try to pump in some extra love gems to make sure you're as high above the predicted cutoff as you can be, just to be safe. Again, you can use the event calculator to figure out exactly what you think you'll need in terms of gems to reach your point goal. So say 180 hours left in the event, these are all my settings, these are all my things. Say I want to reach that new, like say I said I wanted to reach 27,000 by the end of the event. If I want to do that, I'm going to have to spend at least 9 more gems to do that, so that's what I'm doing for this event. I hope it's fun. Yeah. Actually, yeah, I think we're about done at this point for the major, like, things that most people want out of token events. I think the only other method of playing an event I need to cover is the low-effort version, which is playing for love gems. If you don't particularly need the SR for an event or don't want a tier or anything like that, then you are in luck, because you don't need to do nearly as much work as everyone else. You don't need to worry about efficiency or anything like that. All you need to do is make sure you play enough to stay in the tier you want. And for token events, the best tier for gathering love gems is Tier 5. Now, you may be asking, but wait, Aaron, aren't scouting tickets better than 3 gems? Scouting tickets are essentially 5 gems. That is true, but here is the thing. A scouting ticket can only be used for a single scout. Now that's great if all you want to do is single scout and solo YOLO and whatever you kids do today. But it's not so great if you want to do 50 gem 10+1 scouts later on down the line, or you want to keep more gems in reserve to help you out during future events. Raw love gems can be saved up and used however you want, so even though scouting tickets are really nice to have, I would not go for them specifically, like over love gems. I would consider gems much more useful than tickets overall if you can get them. Anyway, so yes, shoot for Tier 5 for the points. Just keep an eye on the leaderboards, keep an eye on your rank, make sure you don't fall below or shoot above if you're really if that's your problem. I should add here that technically you can get more gems if you can reach Tier 3 without spending much, because you'll get even more gems from completion rewards that way. However, honestly, I've found that most players, including myself, absolutely need lower stress events in between the higher stress ones, or else they get burned out on the game really, really fast. Going for Tier 5 is a great way to keep playing and making sure you gain gems, while also not feeling pressured to play all the time, and that helps give you a mental break from hardcore love living. Anyway, I think the only other thing I need to add to the end here is an update about the new song ranking tiers. You now have a chance to earn stickers depending on how well you score on the event song. There isn't really much to say about this other than it's there. Basically, the stronger your team is and the more skilled you are at the game, the better you'll score and the better rewards you'll get. If you haven't watched it already, Be sure to check out my team building guide to see how you can optimize your team to score higher and get more stickers. Yes, and I think that will do it. Again, if you have any more questions about token events, shoot me the questions in the comments, or you can go to the LLSIF subreddit. They always have an event mega thread where people are glad to answer your questions about events. Go to School Idol Tomodachi, get an account there, it's a wonderful site, and hopefully you get your Rainbow Pants Ellie or any other SR that you're shooting for in the future. See you guys later! And the patrons for today's video who donate at least $4 a month are Author X, IMA, Barbo TK, Blaze, Blockbuster Video, Cinder, Circus, Curtis H, Dork and Mindy, Elaine G, Ellie Stanell, Fear Garden, George D, Isaiah R, Keely, Kira Kabuki, Liz C, Logan Scales Aura, Maramp, Myron D, Now, Nee, Renee, Sarah R, Sensei 1477, Vivian F, Calderson at calliesquest.tumblr.com, Lavitz Plays Games on YouTube, short link tiny.cc/lavitsplaysgames, and Otaku no Podcast at otakunopodcast.com. Thank you so much again to everybody for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are. See you guys later. Goodbye!